Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we have something really exciting for you. We'll be going over the top 5 things the rank 1 jungler in North America does to win games that you don't. Our challenger analyst combed over dozens upon dozens of replays from this rank 1 player in order to identify and isolate the 5 most powerful concepts that he uses to achieve the monumental accomplishment of rank 1. So let's introduce you to this rank 1 jungler, Santorin. He's a professional player for FlyQuest and has been rank 1 on the North American ladder for nearly half a year now. Needless to say, if there's anyone to learn how to climb solo queue from, it's definitely this guy. Alright, first we need to talk about what kind of champion Santorin uses to climb. He has a very aggressive champion pool. His most played junglers in the preseason are Lee Sin, Kayana, Elise, Olaf, Gragas, Talia, Nidalee, and Rek'Sai. These are all very strong early game junglers that will obviously have an aggressive playstyle when it comes to piloting them. However, those are his current preseason stats, and it's worth noting that last season his most played champion was actually Karthus jungle. Essentially, he definitely favors aggressive junglers, but he's not afraid of taking on a more farming orientated playstyle if that's what's strongest in the meta. Now, we here at SkillCapped would never advise you guys to go out and copy his most played champions in the preseason, notably Lee Sin, Kayana, and Elise. These are far too difficult champions to play. Instead, if you want to copy Santorin's rank 1 playstyle, we've devised a champion pool recommendation based on difficulty. For beginners, we recommend Warwick and Xin Zhao. For intermediate players, we recommend Rek'Sai and Olaf. And for expert players, this means you're pushing towards Master Tier or higher, we recommend Elise, Lee Sin, and Nidalee. All of these champions can do 100% of what you're about to learn, so if you want to hop straight into a game after watching this guide, don't worry, we got you covered. Alright, enough about champions, let's jump into what you're really here for, the 5 concepts the rank 1 jungler uses to climb. It's around the holidays, and we here at SkillCapped are feeling a bit generous, so we're starting with a bonus technique that Santorin uses, free of charge of course, and that's the ward trick. Now some of you have probably heard of this before, but there's actually a very specific way that Santorin uses it. So the ward trick is when you place an early trinket ward down, usually around the 40 to 50 second mark, then recall and swap to a sweeping lens. This gives you early vision, while also giving you a sweeping lens for your first gank. Now, Santorin almost always uses this ward trick in the exact same way. When he's on the red team, he'll place a defensive ward, looking to spot out for any invades on his red buff. However, when he's on the blue team, he always goes for an aggressive ward on the enemy's raptors. And it makes sense as to why he only does this minor invade on the blue team, as invading the enemy's raptors on the red team can be dangerous since often enemy players will stack the brush behind the red buff. This ward on the enemy's raptors is great when you can get it though. For example, in this game he's playing Diana and places the raptor ward, recalls, and swaps to a sweeping lens. This raptor ward then spots Aatrox taking them shortly after. This is huge and informs Santorin the exact route Aatrox is going. He's skipping his Krugs and doing raptors after his red, and will likely do the most popular follow-up to this with wolves into blue, as this will let him hit level 4 the fastest after raptors. Basically, if you aren't using the ward trick every game, you're missing a ton of value for absolutely no reason at all. Okay, moving on to the first thing we noticed the rank 1 jungler does to win games, and that's having an extraordinarily consistent and successful opening route. Let me explain exactly what we mean by this. When you head into a game as a jungler, you immediately have to make several decisions regarding your opening route. Which buff do you start at? What camps do you take after that buff? And when do you stop farming to gank? Santorin pretty much always gets the answers to these questions right. For example, let's hop into a replay of Santorin playing Diana. He chooses to start at his red, immediately heads to his blue, and then takes his Gromp for a fast level 3. This is then followed up with First Blood on the enemy top lane. So how was he able to predict that this was the best route to take? Well, let's go back to when he first loaded into the game. The first thing you have to decide is which buff to start at. Santorin can start at his blue or his red. This decision is based on which lane you want to gank early. For example, if Diana starts at her blue, then she'll be pathing towards the bottom side of the map. If she starts at her red, she'll be pathing towards the top side of the map. So you always want to start on the opposite side of the lane you want to gank. Well, how did Santorin know he wanted to gank top? He knows this by analyzing his lane matchups, which is something you need to do as well. In the bottom lane, he has Misfortune and Soraka against Xayah and Vel'Koz. The big red flag here is that he has a Soraka support who doesn't have the best engage or setup for us if we do gank. She's more of a safe laner who just tries to poke and heal. Compare this to top lane where we have Fiora against Tryndamere, 2 scrappy duelers, where the matchup is extremely volatile and will snowball into one person's favor. And how do we know this matchup is volatile and snowballs? Well, consider that neither of these champions have a form of ranged last hitting. This means if Fiora gets a lead, Tryndamere has no way to farm minions unless he walks up to them, which then leaves him vulnerable to an all-in from Fiora. So this is how Santorin knows to start at red and path towards the volatile top lane, getting an early kill and snowballing the important matchup. We can see similar decision making in another game with Santorin on Elise. In this game, he has a Draven and Leona bot lane against Kai'Sa Rakan. Now Draven Leona is such a strong snowbally lane, I would instinctively start at my red and look to path towards them. However, Santorin doesn't do that, and instead starts at his blue, pathing towards topside. This makes sense when you look at the top lane matchup and think about it a little deeper. The top lane matchup is Lucian against Ornn. Lucian will have a huge edge on Ornn in the early game, and there's massive snowball potential there for Lucian. By Santorin starting at his blue, he has two possibilities. First, the enemy Lee Sin also starts on the bottom side of the map at his red. This means they both path towards the top side of the map towards the Lucian and Ornn matchup. This would be great for Elise, as it leaves his bot lane, Draven Leona, to win lane without jungle interference. At the same time, he gets to path towards a Lucian top lane who will clearly have lane priority and the advantage. As you can see, this would be a terrible decision for Lee Sin, and so instead the enemy Lee Sin chooses to start at his blue, looking to avoid this scenario and path towards bot. As you're about to see, this is still a good scenario for Santorin. This causes the Ornn top to be isolated, so Elise takes her blue, Gromp, Wolves, and red. Then after she takes the scuttle, she sees the enemy Lee Sin ganking bot, leaving the top side of the map in her complete control. This then lets Elise tower dive Ornn, further snowballing that winning matchup for Lucian. Alright, let's jump into one last example of this pathing, but this time it's a bit different. Santorin is playing Lee Sin against Shaco. His top lane is Ornn against Jax. Ornn isn't exactly the greatest early game champ and doesn't have a ton of snowball potential. However, in the bot lane he has Jhin Yuumi against Misfortune Ashe. Jhin and Yuumi can set up ganks with crowd control while Misfortune and Ashe lack an escape. It makes sense that Santorin would start at his blue, looking to path away from his weak top lane matchup and towards his bot lane with gank potential. So he starts at his blue, then does his Gromp, into his Wolves to hit level 3. However, instead of heading to his red, we see him path differently, and here's the genius of Santorin. Not only is he starting blue and pathing towards the correct side of the map, he's also aware of his mid lane matchup, LeBlanc against Aurelion Sol. LeBlanc is famous for having great gank setup, while Aurelion Sol is notorious for his early pushing. So he incorporates a transition gank on mid lane. This ends up with him not only picking up a kill on the enemy Shaco, but also on the enemy Aurelion Sol after. It would have been really easy for him to have been on autopilot and path to his red after Wolves, but he's aware of the level 3 transition gank mid and is looking out for opportunities to use it. Alright, moving on to our second tip. Santorin is insanely good at how he reacts to spotting the enemy jungler on the opposite side of the map. This is definitely one of the things that stood out to our challenger experts as what Santorin is better at than anyone else, so listen up. Santorin is playing Diana jungle and heading to his Gromp. In the meantime, he spots the enemy jungler Aatrox ganking his bot lane. Simultaneously, notice how the bot dragon is about to spawn. This is a position the vast majority of junglers misplay. Most players would think they have to immediately head to the bottom side of the map, but that's incorrect. There's no way for Diana to get to the bottom side of the map in time to help her bot lane before they die to the gank. Instead, Santorin looks for advantages on the current side of the map that he's on. In this case, checking the enemy's raptors, and then their Krugs, which he then steals. Afterwards, looking for a gank top, which would have definitely netted him a kill if Fiora didn't get the solo kill. We then see the same concept at work a few minutes later. Santorin takes his blue, Gromp, and heads to the nearby scuttle, at which point he spots the enemy Aatrox ganking his bot lane. So what's his response? To look for immediate opportunities on the side of the map that he's on. He ganks mid, into then again checking the enemy's raptors, into stealing their Krugs. A few minutes later, we see the same thing again. Santorin heads to his Gromp and spots Aatrox ganking mid and getting a kill, into heading bot side where the Draken is spawning. He doesn't make the mistake of heading bot to try and defend, instead grabs the top side Herald. He then places it top to get the turret plates and first tower into a kill on Tryndamere. This is exactly how you play when the enemy jungler is getting fed off one of your lanes. Look for value on the other side of the map. This isn't just one game either. We have so much footage of Santorin using this concept, but we don't want this video to be an hour long. If you don't believe us, just check out how far Santorin pushes this concept. Santorin is heading onto the map when his team gets caught out randomly in mid lane, something we've all unfortunately experienced. With 3 of his teammates dead, the enemy team immediately pivots to Baron. Most players would do one of two things in this position, either rage at their teammates for throwing the game, or desperately try to steal Baron. Santorin though has that galaxy brain, cutting past the mid wave to place the Rift Herald, allowing him to trade a tower and inhibitor for Baron, making the position close to even instead of just a net loss. Now, the third thing Santorin does to win games is he plays around his winning lanes and avoids his losing ones. Let me explain what we mean by this. In this game, Santorin is playing Lee Sin against Shaco. He starts the game out strong, getting 2 kills for his mid laner on the enemy mid and jungle. Great, so we know that mid lane is one of his winning lanes now. He's then able to follow this up with a roam on top lane, getting a kill on the enemy Jax. Great, now his top laner is also one of his winning lanes. However, while this gank top was happening, the enemy Shaco ganked bot, killing Jhin. So his bot lane is now his losing lane. He then avoids the bot lane like the plague. The next time he leaves base, he immediately heads top, looking to get a kill on the flashless Jax that's behind. And he definitely would have gotten the kill, but he unfortunately misses his Q off of his ultimate. While this is happening, the enemy Shaco is trying to gank bot lane again, playing to his own winning lane. Santorin ignores this, and immediately looks to take the Rift Herald, playing to his strong side of the map. Shortly after, as he's leaving base, his next target is his winning mid lane, landing a successful kill on Aurelion Sol, into then dropping the Rift Herald for turret plates and damage. This is one of his most consistent approaches to the game. Here he's playing Nidalee against Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao gets an early cheese gank on his bot lane, which ends up being successful and causes them to now be a losing lane. As a response, Santorin follows the concept we just taught you, and looks for plays on the opposite side of the map, and is able to get a kill on the enemy Diana top. Great, now Gangplank is a winning lane for us. Shortly after, the enemy bot lane gets a solo kill on his Zilean support, reinforcing that they're a losing lane for us. Simultaneously, our Gangplank gets a solo kill topside, reinforcing he's our winning lane. As Santorin leaves his base, take note of how the Infernal Dragon is alive. Despite this, he's not pathing towards the bottom side of the map, since that's his losing lane. Instead, he picks up his red, then invades the enemy's topside jungle, stealing all of the camps. While he does this, the enemy Xin Zhao takes the bottom side dragon. This leaves Santorin open to make a play on the opposite side of the map, where he is a winning lane, tower diving the enemy Diana. After this, he takes the nearby Rift Herald, and immediately heads back topside to gank for his winning lane, getting a kill and placing the Rift Herald there. This allows him to get the remaining turret plates and the first tower gold. Now so far in these clips, you've seen Santorin play to the top side of the map a lot, giving away a lot of dragons in the process. This might seem strange or even wrong to some of you, as with the new dragons and dragon souls being so valuable that a jungler should be playing to the bottom side of the map. This leads into the fourth rule that Santorin follows. He always fights for the third and fourth dragons. For example, in this game when he's playing Diana against Aatrox, he ends up getting his top laner ahead with multiple ganks. During this time though, the enemy Aatrox has success with gank spot side. This allows Aatrox to pick up the first dragon, along with the second dragon uncontested. And it's at this point you can really sense that Santorin is on a timer. He looks to knock down the top tower before the third dragon spawns, which frees up his top laner, who has a lead, to actually roam and react to fights on the map. Regardless though, he'll always contest that third dragon spawn. We can see that the third dragon is about to spawn soon, and so he takes a fight mid lane with his winning top laner Fiora nearby. Then, as soon as the dragon spawns, he's in position to take it. Same idea in this game with him playing Elise. The enemy Lee Sin gets the first dragon, and the second dragon uncontested. However, once that third dragon has spawned, he's pinged his team, and most importantly, got his winning lane, which was Lucian top, to rotate for the fight. Keep in mind, this is a straight 5v5 team fight, and so there is a chance at them losing this. Despite this, Santorin knows he needs to contest this dragon. Letting the enemy get 2 dragons is perfectly fine, but once they get 3, they're just 1 away from that super powerful dragon soul. In short, don't be afraid to play the top side of the map and give up 2 early dragons, but definitely look to take down the top tower before the third dragon spawns, and rotate your winning top lane and group as a team to contest that third and fourth dragon spawn. Alright, so we've covered a lot, but it's mainly been focused on the laning phase. Sure, you can see how Santorin gains early leads, but how does he convert them into actual wins once the laning phase ends? Well, he actually follows a very simple and straightforward macro strategy post-laning phase. And this leads into our 5th concept. He groups with his teammates when they're pressuring the map, and farms his camps when they aren't. For example, in this game we have Santorin playing Nidalee. He's heading to his blue, and if we look at the minimap, we can see our bot lane recalling to base. This means his team is off the map, and so he uses this time to farm his own jungle camps. However, as soon as they group mid, he looks to group with them as well and look for picks. Shortly after, Zed is heading bot to pick up a wave, and Zilean has recalled, so he goes back to farming, picking up the enemy red, the nearby scuttle, and his wolves. He then takes the dragon as it spawns. After this, take note of how the enemy Diana is top and Nautilus is bot. Meanwhile, his team is grouped mid as 3, so instead of farming his jungle, which has 4 different camps alive, he groups with them, looking to make a play. After this, he recalls along with Ashe, and with Ashe off the map and Zed picking up the bot wave, Nidalee looks to farm during this time. Notice how after Nidalee farms Krugs, Zed is heading back onto the map towards mid lane. Santorin knows this is his time to stop farming and group with his team as they're about to pressure the map together. Again, the same idea in this game of him playing Lee Sin. If we take a look at the minimap, we can see his teammates are all recalling mid lane. He uses this opportunity to sneak off and take his Krugs. He then matches their recall to spend his gold and heads back onto the map with them. This allows them to get a teamfight 5v4 while the enemy jacks his top lane. Alright, we went over a ton in this video, so let's quickly recap. You first learned the ward trick, where you place an early ward, recall, and swap to a sweeping lens. If you're on the blue team, place it on the enemy's raptors. Otherwise, if you're on the red team, place it defensively to spot for invades. You then learned about opening routes. Identify the most important lane to gank early, and then start on the opposite side of them in order to path towards them. Next, you learn how to react to the enemy jungler successfully ganking on the opposite side of the map. Don't try to move to that side of the map to defend, as you won't get there in time. Instead, look for opportunities on the side of the map you're currently on. This led into the next important concept: play around winning lanes and avoid losing ones. After the early game, you need to identify which of your laners are ahead and which ones are behind. Continue playing towards the side of the map that you're the furthest ahead on, ganking your winning lanes, taking objectives on that side, and eventually the tower. This, however, can lead to you playing the top side of the map and giving up dragons. It's okay to give up the first 2 dragons, but you need to rotate your winning top lane and group as a team to contest the 3rd and 4th dragon spawns, since the dragon soul is just too strong to give up. And lastly, you want to group with your teammates when they're pressuring the map and looking for picks. Then, once your teammate starts to recall, or head to pick up a side wave, look to farm your camps during that timing window, and anticipate having to regroup with them shortly after. Alright, that's going to do it for this guide. If you like this new content type, then let us know you want to see more by liking the video and subscribing. If you want us to do this again, where we go over the top 5 things the rank 1 jungler does to win games, but on a different server, let us know in the comment section below. And if you're serious about improving at League of Legends, check out our website, skillcap.com, where we have a ton more premium guides just like this, a weekly system, and courses, all designed to get you the rank you've always wanted. Click the link in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and as always, good luck and have fun on Summoner's Rift.